All right. What is up? Welcome to the drive home. Just leaving the office here. It's, what's today? It's Monday. Just leaving Microsoft at the Redmond campus. And, we're going to talk software engineering. I'm just going to get my GPS set up here because I'm going to be sitting in traffic, which is fine. That's cool. Kind of expect to. It's the end of the day. And it's kind of why I figured I'd be doing some of this talking to a camera, because I'd much rather make better use of my time than sitting in traffic and pondering my thoughts alone. So I was doing a little bit of reflecting today about what I wanted to chat through, and also thinking about how funny it might be if someone just sees me sitting in my car talking to myself, but maybe they'll think I'm on a call, which is fine. Anyway, it's like, what am I thinking about today? Like, what's going to be top of mind for me to go over? And I thought, like, why not talk about being in the office? Because I think that's a pretty big topic these days. And I'm not forced to be in the office, but I am at the office. Like I said, I'm leaving right now. And I think there's a lot of value in it. But I want to be careful how I say that, because suggesting that there's a lot of value in being at the office does not mean that it's impossible to work remotely, or that working remotely is not valuable. It's not like a mutually exclusive thing, right? These are different things, and I think there's value to both of them. So I think I'm pretty fortunate. I am, technically Microsoft is not necessarily fully remote. It is hybrid. You do need manager approval technically to work from home. But I found, at least in my experience, like, I am a manager, and like any manager I've had so far, no one's complaining if you want to work remote full-time. Like, a lot of people are doing it. But what's been interesting is that this team that I'm on, there are people that come into the office, which is great. So, the previous team, just for context, my entire team worked remote. And that would have meant that if I went into the office, it was kind of pointless. Like, I would drive in, and then I'm just getting on calls with people that are remote, and, like, what's the point of that? So, you spend time commuting and doing this, just to get on a call. And then you're paying this overhead, this, it's like, whatever. For me, it can be up to 2 hours in a day, like an hour to the office, an hour back. If I can sneak into the fast lane and stuff, then it's not so bad. It's, 35 minutes, 30 minutes. But then you get onto calls and you're like, why am I doing this? But this team, it's awesome because there are people that go in different days and stuff. Sorry, I'm just letting someone through. And that's been cool. Like, I do get FaceTime at the office. I've really enjoyed that. And some of these interactions that I've just missed for like a long time, because I kind of lose track with COVID. How many years has it been? Been at Microsoft for 4 years as of last week. And the first half a year was like from Canada before I moved down to the US, but then I was still remote. But yeah, with COVID, man, like, I just never had time in the office, right? So I went from being like in an open concept space and a startup to like, you're working with people all the time, turning your desk to chat. You got to get into like what do they call them? Like a war room. I don't really like the term, but you got to, just get stuff done and get together and work on problems. And it's like you have this luxury of proximity. And I haven't really had that in a while. So that's just how I'm used to developing software in teams, is working like that. So again, coming to the office has been really cool because we get that. Now, again, not everyone's going into the office, and certainly the people that are, they're not in there every day. So it's interesting because, look, I'll give, like today, for example, I have some employees that are remote, and they're permanently remote. So I think that's an important part to mention. Is like I have people that they don't work in the U.S., so like they're remote, and that's fine. So I do come in, and I'm going to be on calls with them, and it will always be remote just because of the nature of how we work. And then I have other folks that are local, and some days they'll come in, some days they won't. So today, for example, I'm doing one-on-one calls with people, and that's been totally fine. I have other people that were in at the office today doing one-on-ones with them, and as a manager, I have to make sure that I'm able to accommodate people effectively in both of those types of situations, which I feel like I can. And we just have to lean into this human element, which sounds funny. But we have to keep in mind that we have this geographic separation, we have time zone separations and stuff, but as much as possible, we want to get that benefit of feeling like we're in the office working together. I think that's what I'm trying to get across here, right? And sometimes it's going to be difficult, especially with time zone differences and stuff. Being located in Redmond and having people that are mostly in Pacific time, kind of we get it kind of easy, and it's definitely challenging for folks that aren't in the same time zone as us. And I can say this, I feel like with a bit of confidence, because when I started, I was still in Eastern time zone. And I'm not talking about I have folks I work with in China. That's a huge time zone difference. So it's not even like that. It's only a few hours different. And even that can start to make you feel isolated in some ways, can make you feel like you're kind of, you don't have a say in your schedule. Which, I mean, I'm not saying that's true. You do have flexibility, and I have felt that leadership or my managers have made that pretty clear. But it's almost like you're still kind of on everyone else's schedule for things. So even though there's flexibility, it's not totally up to you about everything, right? Team meetings that are, everyone's getting together for, those are going to be at core hours, and that might fall outside of, they do a really good job of trying to make sure that's within everyone's core hours, but it's still different. I guess you're trying to race me. I feel like being in the office has been really cool, because I'm trying to get some of that feeling back of we're working on hard problems together. And for me in particular, one of the things that's been challenging, going from startup life, being one of the original engineers, being a manager that was hands-on, coding every day, but still working with my teams too. Big tech companies are no longer a startup. I'm not coding at work anymore, so there's that aspect. Areas that I'm not familiar with, right, because I'm relatively new. I'm not creating these things from the beginning. I really miss that ability to be hands-on and working closely with people. So it makes it challenging for me. So I've definitely appreciated that. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this because I think that it's important that we recognize the different aspects of it, right? I think there's too many people that get into this conversation, and it's hey, look, everyone back to the office, it's the only way. No one's working from home because they can't trust people, which I think is kind of crappy. It's a nice M2. It's a beautiful color. You can't see it unless I pass him, and then he's in my rear view. But the other ways, of course, okay, no one back to the office. We have to do everything remote. And I feel like having the flexibility to pick is key, is what I want to get at. So when we're in a situation where we can go to the office, I think that's good. But being forced is not good, because you're missing out on some of that flexibility. I gotta do a bit of a merge here, but I gotta slow down to move over. It's hard talking and thinking. Okay, so reflecting on what was going on today and just some of the conversations and being able to go over to someone's desk, pull up, whether it's Visual Studio, Azure DevOps, looking through stuff together. Oh man, this part of the road sucks. Sorry, people are moving over lanes. That is powerful. Just like one of the things I miss from the smaller companies is having this way faster turnaround time on things, right? So if you're listening to this, it's like there's chains on the road, man, that's dangerous. When you're at smaller companies, at least from my experience, is like you need to have a conversation about something, you can have it like that, right? At bigger companies with more people, bigger teams, everything's distributed, some decision making is just slower. Getting a hold of someone can be slower. If I have a subject matter expert that's in a different time zone, that might mean I'm waiting to the next day. And I'm not saying that these things don't happen in small companies, they certainly do, but the frequency is significantly different from my experience. It's another crappy merge spot. I gotta get over to the fast lane without dying. So I don't like sitting in traffic, right? I don't like commuting. I think it sucks. I like cars. So I like driving in fast cars, but I don't like the commute. But I do really appreciate getting to meet with people in person. Okay, we're in the fast lane, that's good. So for me, I can remember when I started at Microsoft, I remember my first manager at Microsoft. So started from Canada, I was working remote, and my job is, hired with the expectation I'll move to the US, right? That's fine. And had flexibility, was because during COVID, it's like, hey, don't rush, it's okay. So that's all great. And I can remember saying to my manager, like, I can't wait for the office to open back up because I can't wait to be working with people. That's how I've been working, right? And it took, I don't know, probably a year, I would say, until I started going like, hey, like having the flexibility is pretty nuts. Like I can adjust my work hours. If I need to go run errands during the day, it's just, hey, send a message on Teams. I'm going to be working, late this evening anyway because I have to work with people in China or in the morning. And that's cool. But like, just like this flexibility. And I was like, man, you know what? I don't know if I could give that up. I don't know if I could go back to being in an office all the time. And then I started to go, holy crap, like I just don't know if that's for me anymore. And the longer that it went on, like I said on my previous team, the more I was like, yeah, like I'm all about this remote life. So for me, it has been cool, like I said, to be able to have a team where people are in the office, and going back has been a good reminder about some of these things that I've been missing out on, because I do think that there's pros and cons to literally everything that we do. And quite frankly, if people like don't like to acknowledge, you have an opinion about something, that's great. You're acknowledging the pros, that's great. But if you can't acknowledge that there's any cons, I almost like don't trust you, because I don't trust logic like that. There's pros and cons to everything. In this case, right, today alone was like rapid feedback. We were meeting to talk about a couple things, and it was like, oh crap, I didn't do that. When I'm back at my desk, I'll go check it out, and then I'll let you know later in the day. And then I was in meetings the whole day, and right at the end of the day, like literally before getting onto this, just was walking by, and it was like, hey, by the way, here's the update. We were looking through things together. The convenience of that kind of thing is huge. Like I said, it's not impossible. What the scenario I just described is not impossible to do over Teams or Slack or whatever you're using. It's not impossible. But this convenience, this barrier to having clear communication like that, I just thought was pretty incredible to have the convenience of it. So for me, and I don't know how others feel about this, like as a manager, of course, like I have one-on-ones and stuff with my own manager, so I kind of want to talk about this from two perspectives. But from as a manager, right, like one thing that I can recall being remote, this is probably one of the biggest drawbacks, was even on video calls. So first of all, no one's forced to go on camera, right? No one's going to say like, hey, you better turn that on. Sometimes it's encouraged, because it's great, sure, but no one's forced to do it. But if you can imagine in a one-on-one conversation, like as a manager, I want to make sure that I'm having conversations with people and understanding how they're interpreting what I'm saying. Like, am I saying confusing things? Like, I need like body language and other things. If I have to give difficult feedback, if I have to give positive feedback, like I want to understand the stuff that's going on. And no camera is very difficult, right? You can miss out on a lot of details by not having video in terms of like feedback, right? Nonverbal feedback. And even with a camera, you don't see someone's full body language. You can't see if people are fidgeting as easily. You can't see, like, there's just so many of these other things that we pick up on, like almost subconsciously, maybe consciously as well for a lot of people. But as a manager, I've really missed that kind of opportunity where I'm having conversations with people and trying to get a better understanding of how the conversation's going. So I enjoy that as a manager. For being in person, like I said earlier, I do need to make sure that I'm doing an okay job of giving like I need to do my job effectively, whether it's remote or in person. But that's something I kind of miss, and I really appreciated that today in conversations. I would say that, body language, it seems like such a subtle, small thing, but it's super valuable. Super valuable. We also get this kind of like, and again, it's not the only way it can happen. I feel like some casual things can come up more in person, right? Like, just to give you an example, walking between meeting rooms, okay? So the meeting officially happens when we're sitting down in the meeting room, and it kind of like officially ends when we're leaving, but we're walking back to our desks, right? So you can have these casual conversations before and after. And again, I'm not trying to say that it's impossible on a call. It's be kind of stupid for me to say that it's impossible, but the convenience or this opportunity for these things to come up is definitely there. So I actually did an interview today with someone from back in Waterloo. His name's Dan, and we were talking about the importance of like just being people with other software engineers, right? It's kind of funny to say, but these opportunities where you can have real, genuine engagement with people, managers trying to build trust and relationships with employees too. You want to recognize people. You want to make sure that they're feeling valued, they're feeling seen. And some of these little side conversations can make a big difference in that, right? No one's forced to like share personal life and stuff, but the more like Dan and I think we're both kind of agreeing, the more that it kind of feels like you're working with friends, the happier everyone is, the more engaged people are. But we're biased because we've seen what it's like to work in organizations where it feels like that. I think a lot of people, you're listening to this, you might say, well, screw that, work's a place for work, that's it, I want my paycheck and I'm done. That's totally cool. Like I'm not I'm not telling you how to live your life. All that I'm saying is that I have been in places where I feel like I'm working with friends, and I can tell you, to me, it makes a world of difference. Like, I don't care what the work is at that point. I don't care if it's hard, because I know I'm working with people that I enjoy being around. So that's kind of the management perspective, I'd say, for like one-on-ones, being in person, just these opportunities kind of come up. And the other way. So for me, talking with my own manager, I feel like there's better opportunities for building relationships and trust, right? So it's probably a similar thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything unique from my perspective. I don't know. Like, I think right now I have a manager that's he's awesome, but I feel like I'm trying to imagine like giving difficult feedback to me or something. I feel like in person versus remote probably would make a difference with him. I don't think, but maybe that is a consideration for some folks. So anyway, I don't know if I have any other thoughts on what that might be like for us. I mean, today, like for example, we had our one-on-one and it went way over time because we were just really in-depth in conversation, but that's not really unique to in-person or remote. At least not with my experience. We've kind of done it. We've had short one-on-ones, we've had long ones in person and remote, so I don't think any difference there. But I'd say, similar things where it's good to pick up on his body language, that kind of thing. It's just like, I don't know if people realize this, like, as software engineers, obviously we spend a lot of time writing code, writing messages, emails, reading these types of things, but it's almost like it's not a very effective way to communicate. I realize that might sound silly, but what I'm saying by that is like there's too much opportunity for miscommunication when things are written. Yes, I understand you can proofread things, you can follow up with stuff, it's asynchronous, there's a lot of benefits to different types of written communication, but like when you miss out on tone of voice, body language, there's just more opportunity for things to kind of go sideways, I think. And maybe, if you're listening to this, you probably experienced it on a code review, right? You have a code review and you can't tell if someone hates you or they're having a bad day or they're indifferent or they're actually super excited about the code you wrote because you got a comment and you decide to attach a tone of voice to it, right? You're reading it the way that you think that this person's saying it. But surprise, you don't actually know how they're saying it because you literally have to invent the tone that you're assigning to it. So it's too easy to miscommunicate. So in person, I feel like definitely has that advantage, and that's been good. So kind of looking forward. Like I haven't had much exposure to this kind of idea, but more exposure to working with partner teams in person. I did a little bit of this about a year to 2 years ago. We had some big cross-team projects, and I think when there's challenges, when there's cross-team stuff, it's far too easy to have like an us versus them mentality. And going back to the miscommunication thing with being remote, it's like it's too easy to assign a tone of voice. You might not even have met the people ever. You don't know what they're like, so you can't even. You're literally totally guessing the mood they're in or how they're receiving things, right? And I can remember working on some cross-team projects, and we had a few opportunities to meet up in person. And holy crap! I'll put it this way: meeting in person to go over stuff, work together on things, carries a benefit that lasts beyond just the meeting that you're having in person, that session. And what I mean by that is like especially if you haven't met the people before ever. Sorry, a car beeped at me because it thought someone was pulling out in front of me, but thankfully that didn't happen, or else this video would be done. But if you haven't met the people in person before, you get for the first time like, oh, this is what they're like in person. Now you have a better framing for how they might be responding to some of your stuff, and but yeah, I mean, the benefits carry beyond just the one meeting. And another example that I want to share is not for the cross team thing, but even within my team, I had individuals that we had travel budget. They came in from, so my employees came in from Mexico, and just the benefit of that within the team, of having people meet, kind of engage with each other and stuff, like that was huge. I can't I don't know, I can't explain enough just how valuable that was to have people meet like a single time in person, because any difficult conversations that came up, or any, you know, perception that was negative or even neutral, like I feel like everyone left those sort of that period of time where people were visiting and they were like, man, this was so positive. Like it was just a positive experience overall. So that was super cool. Back to the partner thing though, like meeting with partner teams, like I haven't had much exposure to that outside of like that one situation. It was a TT. That's the other car. I don't know if I'll film out of that because it needs some work, but so I'm hoping to have more of that, because I feel like, at least for me, I was kind of talking about the benefits of working with my team and stuff, being in person and getting to meet people, reading body language, and that's good. It's all great stuff. Once that's established, it's kind of like I get that benefit even when we're back to calls and stuff. But with partner teams, I want that opportunity to build it back up, because it's kind of starting from zero. So the more opportunities I have to do projects and stuff cross team, the more that I want that ability to go get into a meeting room at least once, meet the people I'm working with. I'm gonna pass a bunch of people here. There we go. So yeah, and right now I do have some projects that are cross team, and I can already sense, like, if I sat down in a meeting room with these people once, twice, whatever, to kind of build some of that rapport, I'm very confident that would make a huge difference. And I can imagine that going forward, having, like, you know, debates and stuff, which is totally normal. We want to be able to challenge each other, make sure that we're kind of doing the right thing for all of our teams, which does involve debating and having conversations about what we value. Those conversations will be much better and more effective once we've met in person. And I think that's maybe a little bit of a weird thing to say, because I believe it. But does that mean that there's no way to get that without ever meeting in person? I don't know. I don't think I have a way yet where I can emulate that super effectively being fully remote. If I'm being honest, right? I haven't seen that happen yet. So yeah, I do kind of see, like, maybe it kind of just feels like it's a shortcut to effective communication. I don't know, or a crutch maybe, right? A crutch might be a good word, where I can rely on that because I have used it before and it's been effective. But I do need to consider for my remote first employees, like, how can I make sure that I get that benefit, or even partners that I'm never going to meet in person because they're working remote. How can I try to get that benefit out of what I'm saying for these in-person conversations, right? Like, how do I build that rapport? Part of me thinks it's just doing a better job, like, what's the word I want to use? Better job, more conscious, purposeful, like, engagement with them. So being genuine with them. So it doesn't, a good example is, like, next time I need to go meet with a team or whatever, if I need to work with different engineering managers or product managers or other engineers, is there an opportunity where could I just schedule like 30 minutes with them, 15 minutes with them, and just be like, hey, like I just wanted to like, we're gonna be working together, I wanted to get to know you a little bit better, like can we just chat and like catch up and whatever, right? It kind of seems like fluffy stuff, and maybe you're listening to this and being like, that sounds dumb, like why are you wasting both of your time? But I'm trying to suggest that like even if it sounds fluffy, it's blinding, if it sounds fluffy, I think there's a ton of value in it, and you may not notice like immediately, because it just seems like whenever you're having a conversation with someone, like, but I think there's a lot to that goes further than we think, right? Even expressing intent that you want to schedule time with someone to get to know them better because you want to work more effectively with them. Like, I'm just thinking, if someone said that to me, like, hey, like, the first thing I might be like, oh man, like, I'm busy. But if I think about it, the fact that someone's reaching out and saying, I want to work more effectively with you, and I just wanted to schedule some time with you, like, I would appreciate that. I think that's pretty cool. I've had a couple of people do that in my career, I'd say. And it feels welcoming. You feel like, I think that's an opportunity where you feel kind of seen or heard, which is nice. So that might be something that I have to do a better job practicing, for example. So I got to give that some thought, because I think it's easier for me to just say this out loud, right? Talking to a camera as I drive, and it's like, yes, I should do that, but I really think I should. And I got to come up with some ways to hold myself accountable for that. Which means probably just like literally opening up the calendar and just sending a message to someone, right? Here's an invite, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just want to catch up. Here's why. I want to make sure if I'm inviting someone to a meeting or whatever, it's like there's clear intent. Because I also have to acknowledge they might say, screw you, man, like I don't care. I hope not, but you know, people are busy. So something to think about. Okay, what do we got going on at this intersection? So yeah, I'm almost home. My in-laws are visiting right now, which is cool. It's really good to see them. I think my father-in-law has not been to our house before. He's visited us here when we were still at our apartment. And my mother-in-law has seen the house before. She drove out with my wife and my wife's dog from Canada. So that was pretty cool. So she's been here before. But it's been a little while, so it's nice to have them both out here. It's funny because my father-in-law was watching my wife's dog while oh, this person totally messed up. I should have went. He was watching my wife's dog, right? So for about a year when we were in our apartment, because she's a huge Alaskan Malamute, she's a big girl, and I have two dogs, and we technically weren't even allowed. Alaskan Malamutes were one of the breeds not allowed in the apartment. So we've had her now since we've been at our house for a few years. And it's funny, when they showed up in the driveway, she started howling, and she recognizes them, right? It's kind of cool to see. So we got a full house. We got my in-laws visiting. We got our 3 dogs and our 2 cats, and we're trying to introduce the big Alaskan Malamute to the little cats. And it's challenging because the Malamute wants to eat the cats. She is extremely interested in the cats, and basically every opportunity she's like, I'm gonna eat you. So we're working on that. We tried a bit of an experiment while the in-laws were here to see if we can do an introduction. didn't work. We didn't lose any cats, so that's good, but basically I had to call it off right away. Once the dog goes after the cats and tries to get the cats into her mouth, we go, that's it. So, that's a work in progress. But I'm just about home here, so hope this is interesting. And we'll do some more of these.